Welcome back to This Week. I'm pleased to be joined by Alice Rowley, Nashville native, Hume Fogg graduate, bachelor's from Stanford, master's at the Darden School of Business at the University of Virginia. She was Assistant Commissioner of Strategy for the Department of Economic and Community Development in the Bill Haslam administration and served several roles for former Senator Lamar Alexander, including managing his 2014 campaign. Welcome. You're also a teacher. Nice resume. I'm impressed. That's very nice.
Well, thank you. Yes, Bob. And it sounds better when you read it. So,
I'm asking everyone, I applaud people for getting into the public arena. It is not easy. Why do you want to become mayor? And maybe more importantly, why do you feel you're the right person to lead this great city at this particular time?
Yeah, well, it is really about this moment, I think, for our city. And you read so eloquently, I think my background in both working for high-growth entrepreneurial companies and then also at the state and federal level. And as I've watched over the last 6 or 8 months, some of the tensions that we at the city have had with both the state and federal delegation, and you start to think, who is a person that can help bridge the divide, that can help bring people together and solve problems in a way that shows that we can love Nashville and love Tennessee?
And that's my next question. This is a nonpartisan race, but you are a Republican. In that regard, are you a separate choice? And in that regard, can you feel you can maybe help rebuild that burned bridge between the state and Metro, while at the same time maintaining the integrity of the city council, of the city of Nashville, and the mayor's office?
Yeah, I do. And I am a Republican, and I'm from, a very proud Republican Party in Tennessee. And I think our nation, what you've just led up to, is that our nation last night saw how important it is when people work in a bipartisan fashion. The president tonight will make an address on that front, right? We need serious people from both parties to say we're willing to work together and we're willing to solve problems. I would say right now, Tennesseans and Nashvillians in particular benefit when we first focus on the problems and less about the politics. The highest point in the county today is named for my great-grandfather. It's at Radnor Lake, Gagne Ridge. And that's a state park, and most people who live near Radnor Lake, they don't care that that's a state park or a city park. They care that they have a park, and that is an era that I think we can get back to. We in Tennessee have the first state in the country to have free community college. Our kids have a promise when they're born that they will have 2 years of free community college, and we did that without raising taxes, and we did that without being partisan about it. And in this governor's budget, we're the first state in the country to pay for diapers through TennCare. That's a failure of a lot of federal programs to not address that issue. So I sort of step back and I think, let's think about what the problem is, who we need to get on our side and solve the problem.
I think most people who live here will agree this is a great state. A lot of great things are happening in this community, to the state in general, but there are issues, there are problems. Crime is growing in Nashville. Gun crimes are becoming more and more extreme. Guns are being stolen. Education is lagging in some areas. If you could solve all those problems, it'd be great. But in 4-year term, maybe 8-year term, if you just can only solve one or improve one, what would that top priority be?
The top would be getting our kids to read. And I've specifically narrowed that down on first grade literacy. I know that people right now are tuning into the third grade literacy law, but we are too late then. And we have schools in Metro Davidson County that are publicly funded. They're primarily charter schools that are achieving rates of 70 and 80% of literacy across categories of students. And so when we start, and when I say first graders reading, it is because you can also hold me accountable to that. I think too many people in public life take the position of creating some metric that no one can hold them accountable to. In this fall, 4-year-olds will enter, many of them are voluntary pre-K programs across the city. Hold me accountable that 3 years later, 70, 80, or 90% of them are reading.
You talked about charter schools. There's a push by Governor Lee for the last couple of years to have charter schools with the Hillsdale College Christian-based curriculum imposed. Do you have any problem with that curriculum? Is it a violation of separation of state and church, or do you think it's fine?
I actually don't think that curricula has come up to the State Textbook Commission at this time to be reviewed, and frankly, I haven't looked at it, so I'm sorry, I don't have a
That's all right.
answer.
Alice Rowley, candidate for mayor of Nashville. If you win this election, you will be the 4th mayor in 5 years. There's not a lot of trust of politicians among elected officials or among voters. How do you rebuild that trust? How do you rebuild some consistency in the office of mayor of Nashville? What do you tell the voters? I can do this.
Yeah, well, I think we start rebuilding trust with transparency. When I gathered a group together called the Citizens for Fort Negley, it was one of the most diverse coalitions ever built in our city. And it was built because there was a lack of transparency and a lot of things going on in City Hall. When I worked for Governor Haslam, one of the things that we did is create a website called Transparent Tennessee and bring transparency so that taxpayers understood what their money was being spent on. It's not our money at the government. It is taxpayers' money. They're entrusting us to make decisions to benefit the majority of taxpayers and not a couple of few folks.
I think Metro Police Chief John Drake is doing a really good job of fighting crime in Nashville, but there are issues. There are more juvenile crimes being happened, more violent juvenile crimes with guns, more guns being stolen. There's going to be a special session to maybe hopefully address some of this, but as mayor of Nashville, what can you do? What could you do to help Chief Drake combat this crime so Nashville's a safe place that people want to continue to come visit?
Well, I think we can support the chief who does have the public's trust and does have, which is probably the hardest thing for an urban police chief to earn. He has the trust of the public. He has the admiration of families across the city. And I know right now he and many in Metro Police are worried about Detective Cobble, who was shot yesterday. But what I would say we can do a few things. One, we can say that we support our police, right? This attitude of defunding police or being anti-policing is not helpful for recruiting and maintaining the best urban police force in America, which I believe that we can have. Secondly, I think that we can that we can be clearer that some people do need to go to jail. We saw in the Green Hill shooter, that was an individual who had committed 2 crimes pretty much back to back and then went on to a 3rd crime. And I've written extensively about this, about resetting from a criminal justice system to a victim's justice system. Right now, we've got to reprioritize the rights of victims, and that does mean that some people need to spend time in jail. Thoughts on a couple of issues.
Most people agree that Nashville's behind when it comes to mass transit plan. Your thoughts on a mass transit plan for the city? Does it can we begin something with the city of Nashville? Does it have to be a countywide where we can attract some folks from Williamson County so that we get people in from Brentwood and Franklin, Rutherford County, get them in from Murfreesboro, Montgomery County, get them in from Clarksville? Is that the approach? How would you approach this massive problem, which we all know it is an expensive problem as well?
Yeah, well, one point that you made a minute ago is we don't need every mayor to come up with a new plan. There is a plan that 21 county regional mayors have put together. It's named a group called Moving Forward. They have indicated that the single most important issue for Nashville's next mayor is to help quarterback dedicated transit, because right now we're leaving state and federal dollars on the table because we don't have dedicated transit funding. For everything people talk about the state taking away, the state gave us, through Governor Haslam's Improve Act, the ability to do that. We failed spectacularly in 2018 when we took a go-it-alone approach. So we have a plan. We have a plan that's been endorsed by the regional planning organization. We need to backwards map how to put that on the ballot so that taxpayers can weigh in on that plan and then get that dedicated transit funding. In the meantime, in the shorter term, I would continue to support what Mayor Cooper has done around continuing for our bus lines outside on the corridors of the county, not bringing them into the county. We're seeing ridership go up, and I would continue to support that.
With a little less than a minute to go, what do you want to tell the voters of Nashville why Alice Rowley should be the next mayor of this great city?
Well, Bob, thank you. I love this city. I love this state, and I actually believe that we can do both, and that I will bring an entrepreneurial attitude and get it done, and a sense of transparency and trust back to the mayor's office, and I would be honored to have the support.
What have you learned from talking to the citizens of Nashville? Are they excited about this race? Do they want some leadership?
I think people are ready for a change. I think we see that both in polling data and we hear it. And I think that after 20 years of electing the same people and expecting a different result, we've got to give them another option, and I'd like to be that choice.
Alice Rowley, Nashville candidate for mayor of Nashville. Appreciate your time and your insights. Stay with us. This week continues in a moment.